Okay, so we're going to continue our series today on the best overall rifle cartridge. We're not going to claim a winner today, but I am going to eliminate several. So just be aware, these are my opinions, and it also corresponds to my own scale and the things I value more than other attributes in a rifle cartridge design and performance. So obviously you're going to listen to this and agree with some points and disagree with other points, but I will claim a winner. So let's just start out on today's video by getting some big sections knocked out. Now, on the last video, I mentioned everything basically from at the 338 caliber and up, or bigger, more powerful, I'm gonna eliminate. They're great for what they're designed for. Some of them are excellent at long range. They're all excellent for certain applications of hunting, a lot of African game hunting, but they're not efficient. They're not made to be efficient. They're not going to be light on recoil, and the type of game I'm hunting is not, they're not designed for that. So it's not going to fit me in any way, shape, or form. So your 338 Winchester Magnum on up is gone. I also talked about the 270 Winchester last time, how it might be one of, if not the best hunting rounds. It's not going to make it on the other categories. It's not horrible, in efficiency and long range, but it's really not great either. It's made to hunt, to be flat shooting and be an awesome hunting round, and it does that, but it's not going to meet the criteria I've set out, so it's out. I'm going to get back to that parent case here in a minute, but let's back up to the 22 caliber. So I know that there are people out there, in fact my own uncle's one of them, who has killed many white-tailed deer with a 223 with a Barnes bullet. It's a heavier bullet. He's got a 1 in 7 twist AR, and he has killed many deer very effectively. He's killed hogs by shooting them in the shoulder, mainly because he has the right type of bullet. So I know that 22 caliber rounds loaded properly can do awesome things. I also know people shoot them at long ranges. Even out to 1,000 yards, it's possible to be very accurate and even consistent on the right day with a 22 caliber. But I'm going to take all 22 calibers off of this list, mainly because I don't think that they're ideal for hunting white-tailed deer or anything bigger than that. Even though it can be done, I don't think it's ideal. And also, they can be good at long range, but if there's any wind at all, you're in trouble. So I'm gonna eliminate all 22 caliber centerfire cartridges from this list. I don't think they meet the long range criteria or the hunting criteria that I've set out regarding white-tailed deer, possibly mule deer or elk. In their own right, they're awesome for what they're designed for, which is mainly varmint shooting. You got your 223, of course, which was originally designed as a military round. There's tons of awesome applications for them. They're a blast to shoot, but for what I'm looking for in this particular challenge, it doesn't quite meet that. So all 22 caliber are eliminated, even though I'm a huge fan. I love 22 calibers. I love the 22 250. I have a 22 Hornet that I really enjoy. There's so many good ones that I have not mentioned. Okay, let's go back to that 270 for a minute. So, as you know, the parent case, as I'm sure most of you know, the parent case of the 270 is the 30-06. Also, the 25-06 is derived from the 30-06 case, as well as the 280 Remington. So all those come from the same case, just neck down to different calibers. Now, they're all excellent for hunting. Okay. I don't think, just like the 270, I don't think the 25-06 or the 280 will meet the goals that I've set out as far as efficiency and long range repeatability, if I can say it, and accuracy. Though they're phenomenal cartridges, okay? At the moment, I'm not going to eliminate the 30-06 itself. It's a little bit different. Even though it's the same case, it actually, of all of those, in my understanding, would be the most accurate at 1,000 yards. There's a lot of factors there. There's a lot of variability. Different people are going to have different ideas. But we know way back in the day, in the 50s and stuff, it was used as a long-range competition round. So the 30-06 actually can be used at long range. Okay. Is it extremely efficient? I would say no, it's not extremely efficient, but it's not horrible. So I'm going to keep the 30-06 in the running for the moment, and I will talk a lot more about it later. But every Wildcat that was neck down from that 30-06, the velocity was improved, the trajectory was improved, the recoil was dropped, and for hunting situations, it might have got better and better and better depending on the type of animal you're hunting or the application that you're using it for. So I'm not downing any of those cartridges. I think they're phenomenal. But when it comes to efficiency, long range, and hunting combination, and the goals that I'm looking for, anything that was neck down from the 30-06, I don't believe meets that criteria. So they're all out, though they're some of the best rounds ever designed. But we will talk more about the 30-06 case later. So before we go on with anything else that you see on this list, I want to knock out a few other calibers. The 32 caliber or the 8mm, I'm just going to knock it out. It's not to down it. It's not to say it's not good. But it just is not as good as others. So the 8mm Mauser, the 32, the 325 Winchester short magnum, and there's just a few other ones. Anything in the 32 caliber, it could meet a certain niche that you're looking for, and it might have some awesome purposes. But as far as I'm concerned, there's just other calibers, other cartridges that do it better. So I'm sure you're seeing where I'm going with this, but basically the winner of this challenge is going to be somewhere between 6mm and 7.5mm, which 7.62 is close to 7.5mm, but basically your 30 caliber. So from your 243 caliber to your 30 caliber, or in metric, from your 6mm to your 7.62mm. In that range, I believe, is where your perfect balance is going to be found, okay? So anything smaller than 243, anything bigger than 308, as far as the diameter of the bullet, is out. So that's going to cut it way down. Now, we talked about the 30-06 parent case. Let's talk about a few other parent cases. Let's talk about the 308 parent case and the 7mm Mauser parent case. Just like the 30-06, there's many neck down calibers off of those two cartridges that are awesome. So if you look at the 7mm Mauser, it's a phenomenal round. And I would say it probably would meet all three of these categories: hunting, efficiency, and long range, in some aspect, okay? Corresponding to that is a neck down 308 case in 7mm called the 7mm Odd 8. I would also agree that it meets all three of these categories. Ballistically, they're very similar. The 7mm Mauser and the 7mm Odd 8 are very similar ballistically. They're going to do very similar things, okay? Let's digress for a second and go back to another case based off of the 7mm Mauser, which is the 6mm Remington. And in another case, based off the 308 Winchester round that was neck down to 6mm, called the 243. So 243 and the 6mm Remington are very similar, just like the 7mm .8 and the 7mm Mauser were similar. Ballistically, they're very much the same caliber, just a totally different case. Okay. Also, based off that 7mm Mauser, you have the 257 Roberts, which is just neck down to 25 caliber. Now, if you stand up next to each other and you look at the 7mm Mauser, the 6mm Remington, and the 257 Roberts, they're all the same case, just neck down. They're a little bit on the long side. Now, when I say long, not long like a 7 mag or a 30 or a 300 Winchester Magnum, but they are not going to fit into a short action, okay? Because way back when, these are old cartridges, way back when, efficiency was not the goal when people were designing cartridges. They were looking for performance, and if the cartridge needed to be stretched out, let it be stretched out. Years later, when the 308 came out, I've talked about it in the previous video, it basically was a more efficient design of the 30-06. And the 7mm .8 is a more efficient, shorter design of the 7mm Mauser. Okay. The 260 Remington is really a more efficient design of the 6.5 by 55 Swede, which I don't have listed here. The the 243 is a more efficient, shorter design of the 6mm Remington. So all those cases neck down from the 308 are very similar to these other cases that I'm talking about. These other classic rounds like the Mauser, the Roberts, the 6mm Remington, the 6.5 Swede, but they're more efficient. Okay, so we're going to cross off our list some of these that just are not as efficient. So we've crossed those off the list because they're not as efficient as their 308 case counterparts. Now, I understand this, and there's going to be people possibly comment about this, that some of these longer, older classic cartridge cases, loaded to their potential, can outperform the cases based on the 308. And I agree with you. The 6mm Remington, loaded to its potential, will outperform the 243. The 7mm Mauser, loaded to its potential, is going to outperform the 7mm .8. It's going to be very, very close though, okay? So that gets back to, are you looking for optimum performance, which is what hunting rounds are all about? Are you looking for optimum efficiency? Now, you've seen my scale and how my scale has efficiency as the #1 attribute. So if I can get 95% or 98% of the performance of these, optimal hunting rounds in a shorter package, probably utilizing a shorter barrel and a lighter rifle, I like that better. So there's the 7mm Mauser, the 6mm Remington, the 257 Roberts, the 6.5 Swede, which I don't have listed. I am a big fan of all those rounds. I think they're awesome. But they're not the perfect rifle cartridge in my opinion. So all these ones in the center column, the 243, the 260, the 7mm .8, and the 308, I'm going to leave them in. They're not going to go away. They're going to stay in and get through this round, and they will live on in this challenge. Just because what they do awesome in a very efficient manner. Okay? So let me just show you a couple more of these cartridges I have written down. I told you we're going to leave in for now the 30-06 Springfield. Now I've got a couple rounds over here, the 300 Winchester Magnum and the 7mm Magnum. we're going to talk more about these in videos upcoming. I'm going to leave them in there for today, okay? Because even though they're obviously designed for hunting and have long cases, they are pretty good at long range as well. They're very effective in 2 of these 3 categories. So for today, I'm going to leave them in, and we're going to talk more about them. Now, let's talk about the creedmoors, okay? So the creedmoor is very similar in theory to the 308 case. It's actually even shorter, okay? They definitely wanted to make sure it would fit in an AR-10 platform, which is based off the 308 case. But they wanted to make sure you could get the heaviest bullets in that caliber, which is usually around 140, possibly a little bit more. And they knew they would have to pull out that bullet and seat it as far out as possible to get as much powder in it to achieve what they were going for, which is a very accurate round at 1,000 yards plus in that particular length action. So from the get-go, the 6.5 Creedmoor was designed for long-range accuracy. So it's very similar to the 308 case, but just a little bit shorter. Designed to fit in magazines that, even though it's a short case, you can still extend that bullet out. Or I should say, because it's such a short case, you can extend that bullet out quite a ways and have a lot of powder capacity in the case and still fit in that particular magazine. So 6.5 Creedmoor was designed from the beginning to be awesome for long range. Every rifle is chambered in a 1 in 8 twist because they knew they'd be shooting 140 grain bullets. Okay, so it definitely is efficient. It definitely is good for long range. And it definitely can do the job on certain game. So we're not going to talk too much more about it today, but we're going to leave it in. So the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 6mm Creedmoor, which is just a neck down version of the 6.5 Creedmoor, neck down from 264 caliber to 243 caliber. We're going to leave both of those in, okay? Now, there is a lot more 6.5 calibers, okay? And a lot of them could be on this paper. Maybe you think they should be. The 264 Winchester Magnum is very similar to the 7mm Magnum, just in a 6.5 caliber. I'm not going to add it to this list because it's a hunting round. It's kind of a barrel burner. But it's a phenomenal hunting round, okay? You have a lot of 6.5 calibers. You see listed here the 6.5 by 284. Now, I'm biased, but I'm a huge fan of the 6.5 by 284. And its parent case, the 284. So the original 284 came out, I believe, in the 50s. And it was designed to basically meet the performance of the 270, but in a more efficient, shorter case and design. And they wanted to chamber it in their Model 100 automatic rifles and also in their Model 88 lever action rifles, okay? Well, it didn't quite meet that. It did pretty good, but it didn't quite meet the performance of the 270. Mainly because in order to fit in that magazine and in that cartridge, in that action length, you really had to cram that bullet way down in the case. Years later, well, a short time later, they realized if you put that caliber in a bolt action rifle and extend it out and have the bullet seated out quite far, kind of like what the Creedmoor is doing now, that it actually is a phenomenal all-around cartridge and does get close to the 270 performance, yet is more efficient and honestly is better for long range. So the 284 Winchester is a phenomenal round. Well, it wasn't long at all till Wildcatters necked it down to 6.5 caliber and created the 6.5 284. years ago, at one time, the 6.5 284 held world records in the long-range shooting game. Okay, as far as performance and long-range shooting goes, it can do everything that the 6.5 Creedmoor does, but better. Now that's a controversial statement. Look it up. You will find that I'm right about that. It does have some downsides. Its head has a shorter barrel life as well. So the Creedmoor, is going to have a better barrel life. So there's an argument to be had there, which we'll get into in videos upcoming. The 6.5 284 though is a phenomenal round for long range. It's very efficient because that 284 case was designed for efficiency, and it's a great hunting round as well. So it's going to stay in. Now the 6.5 PRC is one I did not add here. Ballistically, it's going to be very similar to the 6.5 284. Okay, so I have no experience with it. I'm going to just go with the 6.5 284. There are rifles chambered in the 6.5 284. So if you're thinking that there's not, there are. You can go to Savage's website right now. They have many guns chambered in that caliber. And you can get them starting at about $500 or $600. You can get their model 110, and it's not hard at all to get. So it is a commercially available round. It didn't used to be. There are factory rifles chambered in that round. Same with the PRC, but I'm not going to put the PRC in here. I'm going to put the 6.5 284. Now the parent case of the 6.5 284, the 284, is also a phenomenal round. I am going to mark it off though, because there are no factory chambered rifles that I know of in that caliber. I mean, there probably is some, semi-custom one that's $5,000 or $6,000 or something that I'm not aware of. But as far as just buying a relatively cheap gun or rifle in a caliber, you're not going to find it. You're not going to find anyone that I know of making the ammunition for it. So it's just not practical, okay? And that's something else that you guys are going to know of, a lot of calibers and a lot of cartridges that could fit on this list. They're just as good as the ones I've listed, but I've probably not listed them because they're just not, you can't just go out and buy a gun in this chambering and get ammo for it reasonably. So yeah, could there be better calibers than what I have on this list? Very possible, but I think I've got the best ones available that you can actually go and buy relatively easy. I'm going to stop here for today. I am going to tell you that I personally do not know what I'm going to pick yet. So if you're thinking that I'm gearing all this toward one cartridge, I don't know. I have a few that I think will be in the top 3, but I honestly am really thinking this through, and I don't know for sure. But I will tell you that the winner is on this piece of paper somewhere. So I'm sorry that I kind of stammered and stumbled through this, and I'm sorry for the camera work, but hopefully this is interesting to you, and there will be a winner coming up soon in a video upcoming. Hopefully this is interesting to you. I've always been fascinated with cartridges and calibers. When I was a kid and I heard my uncles talk about the 30-06 and the 270 and the 7mm .8, even when I was a kid, it just fascinated me. And I've always wondered, like, how does this caliber compare to another caliber? How does this cartridge compare? So I find this fascinating. And I just think, it'd be really neat to get the winner of all this, the once and for all phenomenal rifle cartridge. And that's what we're going for here, is to get a winner. And we will be doing that shortly. So hopefully if you enjoyed this, there'll be more videos coming, and I hope you have a great day.